primarily I'm a trainer, an educationist, come trainer, come consultant. And the day I graduated from SRCC, the very next day I was absorbed. So my relationship with Shri Ram College of Commerce moves from being a student, and next year, the very next day after my post-graduation results, the next day I'm teaching third-year students. So my association with SRCC goes beyond, just academics. So it is home to me. Now, there are 4 basic principles on which I train. And I'll share them with you because if you agree with them and if you find them reasonably okay, carry them forward. The idea is that we have a legacy and we need to pass on that legacy. And that legacy can only be passed if we share our knowledge. So for me, sharing is very, very important, irrespective of how much of field work I do, how much of consulting I do, how much of information I have. It is critical for me to keep on sharing more and more and more. As much as I have, I share it. So I don't hold back information. As a teacher, as a trainer, sometimes you tend to hold back information. Now, when you hold back information saying that this is my research work, I'll not share it with anybody else because this is my hard work. All of us have that attitude. Then you're constraining your own self because you are then living in an environment where you say, okay, this is what I possess. And then the search for new information, the search for new ideas actually starts a downturn. So once you have shared the information, now what happens is everybody knows about it. Now, if everybody knows about it, then you yourself are challenged that what am I going to deliver next? Whatever I knew, whatever was my core competence, I passed it on to a larger audience. 2,500 people are sitting in an audience and you passed on that information. So it is no longer your cup of tea and you said, okay, fine, it's gone. Then you face a challenge. Then for the next session, what do? Then you are challenged to find out more information and gather more data and analyze that data and bring up a greater. So you develop yourself. And that is very important for motivating yourself to continue to remain a student throughout life. So there are 4 principles on which I train. And I never use the PowerPoint. I never use anything except my podcast is good enough. So you don't need to kind of expect that I'll be sending you a PPT or anything. The entire idea is that I will be just sharing my knowledge base with you. That's it. So there are 4 principles on which the 4 pillars on which my entire education, delivery platform is based. And those 4 principles are the outcomes I want to achieve and the outcomes for a greater goal. The outcome, the 4 pillars are: number 1, I want whoever is listening to me to develop their knowledge base. Now, it's very simple to say that this is knowledge. Number 2, the first pillar is knowledge. So I'm spending about 10-15 minutes on this because you are the future teachers, right? We are on the verge of, 5-10 years and then we retire. Now, 1 is knowledge. Number 2 is a skill set. Number 3 is an attitude. And number 4 is a value system. So my entire teaching, so you give me a subject and I'll take a subject, irrespective of which subject it is. I'm a commerce teacher, you give me biology, and I'll take that subject and use that as a pedestal to deliver knowledge, skills, an attitude, and a value system. Now, why is that important? Now, that is important because what are you developing these students for? In SRCC, we are developing students to become leaders. We are developing students not just to be corporate ready, but leaders, please. And leaders need to have these 4 domains. So whether you're teaching economics, whether you're teaching commerce, whether you're teaching sciences, humanities, and irrespective of that, you need to see what the outcome is going to be. And are you teaching a subject matter, or are you using the subject matter to deliver something greater? Last 15 minutes, I'll give you my background that why I teach like this. So number one, in my classes, there's no theory. In my classes, there's no theory. I don't teach theory. So what do I teach? If I don't have a PPT, I don't have theory, what do I end up teaching? And you'll see what happens in the next 2 hours. So when I say knowledge, I'll start with the first pillar and you'll get conditioned to it. Knowledge has a hierarchy. That hierarchy is data, information, intelligence, knowledge, wisdom. Again, I'll repeat myself because it's up to you. There's data sets, there's information, there is intelligence, there's knowledge, and there's wisdom. My objective on the first pillar is to move you from information to intelligence. That's the idea. I move you, now it'll be an interactive session. I'll be asking you to go on Google and doing a number of exercises with me simultaneously. That's how I teach. So, and you'll be collecting data right now and seeing what is happening around you, and you'll be able to relate the topic to real life scenarios, and theory will automatically emerge out of it. So Google gives you information. As an educationist, as a trainer, your job is to move your, whoever is your audience from information to intelligence, and if possible to a knowledge base. Going beyond that is becoming Buddha. I can't do that. I can't make you wisdom wise. My job is to move you on that hierarchy of building you from how information is provided, how that information becomes intelligent information, and how that intelligence translates into knowledge. That's my first pillar. My second pillar of teaching, training, consulting is all about developing skill sets. Skill sets depending upon what my audience wants. So every curriculum you look at, my most important skill set that I end up developing is leadership. Now you're going to use a subject matter to showcase leadership. How is that to be achieved? Then most important, teamwork, because leaders need to work with teams. Along with that, very strong, critical, creative problem solving. Leaders need these skill sets. Today's environment requires you to develop these core 4 skill sets, including communication skills, analytical reasoning, and data analysis. These are something that can be outsourced to somebody. So what you need is agility. You need speed. The capability to take decisions and be accountable for them. So that's the second skill set. That's the second pillar on which I train. Knowledge, skills. The third is an attitude. The attitude is stay rooted to the ground. Why rooted to the ground? Because the day you start thinking that I know all, the downturn starts. Your attitude has to always remain constructive. Everybody has 24 hours. How you utilize them is what separates one individual from another. So Malcolm Gladwell, I don't know whether you know about this book or not, talks about the 10,000 hour rule. Go online and check what is the 10,000 hour rule. I'm not going to train you on that. You got to do it. It's available on Google. I'll give you pointers and you find out what is Malcolm Gladwell talking about when he says there's a 10,000 hour rule to achieve excellence. Excellence in any field that you want to achieve. You can be the best in the world, but you got to devote 10,000 hours for it. 10,000 dedicated, committed hours to achieving that goal of excellence. So that attitude is very important. That I'm not saying, see, there's no word for it. I'll give you a Hindi word for it. एक तो होता है स्वाभिमान और एक होता है घमंड. I don't have an English word for it. There's a single word for it called proud. You feel proud. So there are two words in Hindi. If you're coming from a different vernacular language, in Hindi, I can just tell you, there's a word called having swabhiman and having ghamand. So don't enter the domain of ghamand. Okay, don't enter the domain. You know, you have swabhiman, you know, that whatever your achievements are because of what you achieved, because of your hard work, people around you sacrificed, and you are there where you are today. So that attitude has to be a view of swabhiman rather than being ghamand. So Drishti says being proud and being vain. I leave it to you how you interpret it. That's your call. So you can be on the chat box and you can, I'll be going instantly on the chat box. I'll be reading what you're saying and then simultaneously commenting on it, right? Self-respect and arrogance. Anusha says self-respect and arrogance. Now that's up to you. This is my understanding. I said, you interpret it the way you want because that's where you look at it. Because everybody has a different perspective towards education, towards training, towards consulting, how you move into it. Are you there in for the money or what are you there in for? And my fourth pillar is a value orientation. And that value orientation is primarily driven again by one word, and that is integrity. I'm not saying be honest. I'm going 2 steps ahead of that and saying having integrity. So my entire talk will be on these 4 pillars, and I'll use that domain. So they give me a topic, you know, I got the topic about a week back. Organizational behavior driving organizational strategy, right? So I just know that this is my topic and I need to speak on it. Organizational behavior driving organizational strategy. So fine. So how do I explain it to you, right? So let's start with it. And we look at the 4 pillars that we're going to look at. And we do about a number of case studies. Case studies here. And we understand what is happening in the environment. Organizational behavior driving corporate strategy or organizational strategy. So one is the word organizational behavior. As a layman, an organization is composed of people. So we're primarily looking at groups of people who are behaving, right? And their behavior impacting strategy. There is huge amount of literature, you know, theoretical stuff about public sector, about private sector, and saying that, look, the private sector is more efficient, the public sector is not efficient. And the government says, okay, fine, let's privatize. The British government, because I study corporates across the world, and that's my job, British government had privatized railways in Britain in the 60s and the 70s. And today, the British government is thinking of removing privatization and bringing it back under the public sector, that is under government control. For me, the debate is not private sector or public sector. It's an immaterial debate. The debate is all about, is the organization delivering? So we'll start with one case, note it down, and it's a brilliant case to start. And I'll start with my fourth pillar first and showcase to you that how organizational behavior drives corporate strategy or organizational strategy. And I'll look at private sector, I'll look at public sector, and across cultures, not just in the Indian context. So note down the organization. The organization is called DMRC, okay, Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. Now, why do you want to study an organization like DMRC? Obviously, it is a public-private partnership, primarily holding of the government and the state government, and primarily all decisions have to be with the prior approval of the government, obviously. So Delhi Metro Rail Corporation, let's start with the first thing. How do I know that an organization is performing well? So your answer will be profitability. You look at profits. Fine. One measure of success, performance, effectiveness. Go onto your Google and find out the punctuality rate. Go online and check. What is the punctuality rate of DMRC? How punctual are their trains? That means they're on time. And how do you define punctuality? Does punctuality mean you can post your answers on the chat box, please? If you know the answers, post them on the chat box. Otherwise, it'll be a drab session, please. Okay. It'll be a drab session. You have to be with me on your laptops, or you have to be on your mobile phones and searching for data, information. And I'll take you to the next level, intelligence. So all trains need to be on time. When you say on time, what is the global standard of being on time? So is a train coming 5 minutes late on time or not on time? A train coming half an hour late, is it on time or not on time? Coming 24 hours late. In case of metro services, being on time, being within 3 seconds of your announced time of arrival. Let's say you have to travel from point A to point B. Okay, 2 stations, 10:15 and 10:15 and 30 seconds. Now you will be judged. You will be judged on your punctuality that you're on time if you reach by 10 minutes, so many minutes, and within 33 seconds. So you have your window that if I have to be judged punctual, I have to arrive at the station within that time limit, and my extension time is just 3 seconds. And DMRC is 99.9% compliant. Priyanka says 99.9% compliant. Can you imagine a public sector organization having that level of efficiency? You check the track record. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So somebody somebody in the organization would have set the standards and created that culture, and behavior as a part of that culture. For DMRC, in spite of being a public sector organization, okay, to deliver such excellence, not only in punctuality, you look at the parameters on which they are judged. Everything. And they work far, far more efficiently than even the best of private sector enterprises. So, for example, I'll give you another point, not just punctuality. Most of the public sector organizations are, and then how that behavior comes in, don't forget that. These are the outcomes coming in. You look at their project completion time. It's called PCT, project completion time. So if you have a project to be completed, construction project of underground overhead railway system to be put into place, then you say, okay, fine. We got to do it in 6 months. The DMRC, if it has to be 6 months, will complete it in 4 months without compromising on quality. Without compromising on quality. And they'll deliver the best. Now, there must be somebody mad there. And the guy behind it is a guy called Sridharan. E. Sridharan. Sreedharan. You need to read a book. Go online and check a book called Karam Yogi. See, how do you get knowledge? How do you get that intelligence? You get intelligence when you move away from the textbooks. That's the most important thing. Textbooks, you can always read. It's there, it's given. But how do you relate the text to the practicing world? That's the challenge. Now, imagine, again, a real life scenario, again, because I've interviewed people there from DMRC. I work closely. So all this, the knowledge that I'm sharing with you, that intelligence, one, it'll be available on Google and primarily available through my, whatever I'm sharing with you, through my interactions with people around. But you don't find people of DMRC anywhere. You go to the stations, they're not visible. It's an invisible organization. But what you see is the delivery. So let's take a case. I am working for an organization. I've been given a job that I need to give, let's say SRCC, me, right? Let me take it on me. We got to buy computers, right? Let's say we got to buy 100 computers for students. And I'm the head of the purchase board. And we buy 100 computers. And later on, my auditors, my internal auditors and my external auditors, they give in their audit report that there were kickbacks involved. And Mr. Amit Sachdeva received kickbacks in this purchase deal. Fine. I'm issued a memorandum, because this is the language of CVC, the Central Vigilance Commission. I'm issued a memorandum. There's a charge sheet given to me, and I'm charged. I need to defend myself. Now, I need to defend myself, and I need to be present on a defined date and time and present myself before the inquiry officer or the board of inquiry. I appear. Yes, normal. Nothing great about it. Let's go to DMRC. contract worth 2,000 crores. One senior manager charge sheeted for favoring a third party. Charge sheet issued, memorandum issued, and asked to appear before the Board of Inquiry. The Chief Vigilance Commissioner is there. The Board of Inquiry he's there. Before he walks into the, he's the waiting area, somebody else is sitting there. Who's sitting? The chairman of DMRC. And he tells them that, look, you wait outside. Give me the papers. You're not appearing before the inquiry commission. I'm the chairman of this organization. I'm accountable. And I'll appear before them and I'll defend the case. You did your duty. You were told that you got to follow these particular principles. And so the chairman appeared before the board of inquiry, and that was E. Sridharan. Legendary guy. He's called the Metro Man of India. You would have heard of that term. But you don't know these inside details of what was happening. Because at the end of the day, we got to see how organization behavior translates into corporate strategy, because that's the topic that you got to relate to. So always come back to what we're going to speak on. Don't lose track of that. So when he appears before the Board of Inquiry, the Board of Inquiry doesn't feel that the chairman has appeared and passes a judgment against DMRC saying that, look, these were kickbacks. And so what DMRC does is it takes the case to the Delhi High Court, saying that, look, there was nothing wrong. We don't need to follow L1 procedures. L1 procedures are where you say that we got to give the order to the lowest quotation that is received. He says, we can't compromise on quality. I'll come finally to the judgment. Delhi High Court applauds Sridharan for the stand he took. This is in the judgment. This was unprecedented, and it agrees by what DMRC said and reprimands the CBC. All of your employees, all of you are going to be potential employees. When will that day come when your chairman, your head of the department says, I'll stand in front of you?
उसको अपने पास ही रखो, लास्ट में खा के एक बार फिर से करना.
Sorry, sir, just.
It happens when you're at home. This happens. So don't be shy about it. So there's a mother. She has her kids. They have to be fed with breakfast or lunch or whatever. But this is COVID. So never get angry. One rule of being cool is, this happens with everybody, right? So that's that. So even if it is a formal delivery, 100 plus of you are there and somebody by mistake has their audio on, it's all right. It does happen. It's not going to make the heavens fall, right? So coming back. So my question was at a very critical point, and that question was that when will your chairman stand for you? We have not seen that kind of. Now imagine what happens to the organization. Now this guy, the senior manager, comes back and says, look, the chairman was there, yeah, he was defending me. And we lost the case at the CBC. He's taken the case to the High Court. Imagine the morale of the people in the organization. They know that somebody has their back. They know that this guy is going to stand for each and everything that happens in the organization. This is behavior driving excellence in work, because excellence will be coming from the employees. The employees have to be charged up, they have to be morale boosted, they have to be motivated to deliver the best. Sridharan's leadership is legendary. He used to have, so who's driving behavior? Behavior is driven by, primarily, there's something called the domino effect and there's something called a ripple effect. Note it down, study it. Anshu says, we'll have to take a rebirth. Rebirth on what, Anusha? No, no rebirths required, please. All you need to do is change your attitude, change your value system, and you are there. Right? Vardha is saying, right, sir. I don't know what is right. At the end of the day, you need to internalize it. That's the important point. Just listening to it sounds good. Walking the talk is what sets you apart. So there's a poem. Again, I digress, but that's how it is. There's a poem by Robert Frost. And Robert Frost says, must have, I don't know when we would have studied it, or you studied, was it in your curriculum or not? So Robert Frost says, two roads diverge in a yellow wood. And sorry, two roads diverged in a yellow wood. And sorry, I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. So there is an easy path and there's a difficult path. 99.9%, 0.9999% take the easy path. There's a difficult path. And that makes the difference. It's going to be challenging, it's going to be hard, it'll require sacrifice, everything will come into play. Coming back. There is a domino effect and there's a ripple effect. Now, when you throw a stone in a pond, it creates ripples. So the ripples are right across the pond. But somebody's going to throw that stone. You tuck, dip, go inside, and the ripples get formed. What is the domino effect? The domino effect is, they're dominoes, like a pack of cards all standing, and you hit one and all of them start falling down. Organizational behavior is driven by leadership. Devesh says, good, the road not taken. That's the title of the poem. Okay, so good, you are participating and actually listening to me. I don't know, because we are half an hour into it, right? Maybe more than that. We just got 2 hours, and I can go on and on and on and on, and it never stops. So Piyush has given you the entire poem there on the chat box. The last 3 lines is what I took. Two roads diverge in a yellow wood or a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So if you can look at the chat box, it's there. Behavior is driven by role models. Who are the role models in your environment? They could be your parents, they could be a relative, they could be a friend, they could be anybody. It could be a third party. You could look at a celebrity. It could be a role model, or even somebody who's worked hard, somebody who's excelled, somebody who's sacrificed, and you look up to him and say, okay, fine, great. Behavior is also driven by a value system and an attitude. DMRC inculcates a culture of excellence. An excellence towards not just your end customers. Most of you will not even know the main revenue stream of DMRC. Where is the money coming from? Where is DMRC earning money? Majority of its earnings. What is the source? Anybody? Chat box. What is the source of earning for DMRC? Major source. You'll say ticket sales. My answer will be, that's a minuscule part. Advertising is important, yes. Anybody? Swati says travelers, fine, ticket sales, advertising, so they have that real estate and they rent it out and they give it. So advertising is there, fine. But the most important, consulting. Not word of mouth, Avik, it's consulting. There are projects that are going around all over the world where they want to set up metro rails within a city. So whom do they come up for consulting? And that is DMRC. Because DMRC has set such great standards of excellence and the knowledge is shared, that is what I started with, that one team trains another team, in succession. And this entire experiential learning gets passed on to the young executives. And they have this huge training department which trains other engineers who come from across the world to the DMRC Training Institute to learn about everything, how from design to implementation of a railway project. And DMRC charges huge amount of money for that consulting, crores of rupees for your traveling. So DMRC has not limited its revenue streams. On the contrary, it's identified avenues where you can use your expertise to develop revenue streams for your organization. And obviously, COVID times, it doesn't mean that consulting will stop. You can still do consulting online. You can at least start designing the blueprints of the city and start working on the project. So the employees are never off duty. Off duty means, when I say off duty means for them, again, I'll take another short example and then I move to another case. I don't want you to get bogged down by just one organization. I'll take you across diverse fields. They have the norm, be there at 9, leave by 5. Now, most of us in the private sector believe that private sector, because I consult there and number of my students are there. So they say that, okay, fine, there is a reporting time, but there is no time when you're going to come back from office. Some of your spouses will be having that, coming back at 8, 9, 10, because others in the organization are also doing that. Because your boss interprets that if you're staying longer, then you're doing hard work and you should be due for promotion. At DMRC, it's the opposite. Virtually 180 degrees opposite. It's a full 180-degree turn. If you're doing excess hours of work, you are inefficient. You got to do your job in 9 to 5, and after that, it's your family time. So go back home, give time to your wife, give time to your kids, give time to your family, your parents. So who's deciding this interpretation? Same thing. One case, one looks at putting longer hours of extra time, or overtime as you call it technically, as a mark of hard work and efficiency. Another person says this, looks at the same thing totally differently, and says that you were given a job to do between 9 and 5, and you're sitting up to 12 at night. You're not efficient enough here. Go find some other job. What is driving behavior? What is driving strategy? Strategy is all about, at the end of the day, remember this, there is something called, I have my own equations which I develop for people to understand and follow, is V is equal to value. I say value, I write it as a fraction, as a mathematics, as benefit over cost. I don't say benefit minus cost, I say benefit over cost. And that's everything about strategy. Just this equation, if you know, you can speak and consult for the next 1,000 years, believe me. Just with this one equation, value is equal to benefit over cost. Benefit is all about product differentiation. Cost is all about cost minimization. So you're looking at that equation. DMRC looks at that value equation and says, we need to increase the numerator and, if possible, reduce the denominator. Now, that's a very difficult strategy to do. If you want value to increase, when you increase the benefit, generally the cost goes up. Here they're trying to achieve the reverse. It's a difficult exercise. Some companies will be differentiated because of their USPs, their unique selling propositions. So they'll offer something unique in the market, and because of that, they'll charge a premium price, because if you're offering something unique and you work for it, the cost may generally be higher, generally, not always. And then you will have a differentiation strategy. Other companies are driven by cost advantages. How do you reduce the cost? So it's all about cost control. Can you do the juggling simultaneously by increasing the numerator and reducing the denominator? And how companies have achieved it. And then what needs to be done? When you're saying behavior, behavior means a lot of activities, teamwork, leadership coming together and driving to achieve that and implementing that strategy to achieve a desired goal. Now that goal differs from organization to organization. So coming back, DMRC has what is called reverse clocks. Go online and find out what are reverse clocks at DMRC. And how do they ensure that a project that was supposed to be completed in 6 months gets completed in 4 months? So I leave the cases incomplete. I'll not complete my cases. The idea is do it on your own. I'll have a lot of matter left for you to do. And then take these cases forward to your class. Take these cases forward to your, because when you move into, when you move into a private corporate boardroom, most of you not being there, they're all educated people. They're all MBAs. They're all PhDs. Now, how do you move in there and create a dent? That's very important. Number one, you'll be afraid, yeah. Bhai, chairman hai, managing director hai. They're all human beings. All human beings. But when you move in there, you got to have that unique set of intelligence and knowledge to say that this guy is making sense. And we had not thought about it earlier. So can we look at it? This is called anamorphosis. This is called anamorphosis, your viewpoint of things. Okay. So that's very, very important, that you carry with you a viewpoint that nobody else has. I'll take a line from a Hindi movie, Amitabh Bachchan, or somebody else. I don't know. The line is, मेरी सोच वहां से शुरू होती है जहां तुम्हारी सोच खत्म होती है. I don't know which movie it is, but there's a line from a Hindi movie that I start thinking from the point where you stop thinking. So the board had analyzed every damn thing. You went in and added 5 more, which you knew that they're already in mind. And that creates a competitive advantage. That creates a competitive consulting edge, if you have to be in that domain. Same as with training, same as with a session that I'm delivering. And believe me, we are virtually 12, 20, 34 right now, and I have not picked up a pen. And you're listening to me, right? So I need to have engagement. Remember that rule. I got to have your engaged, I got to have your mind engaged. Maybe you're doing something, koi sabji kaat raha hoga, maybe. Okay. Somebody would be putting on the pants of his child and say, okay, tu naha liya, ab kapde pehen le. You know, because it's on mute. I can't see you. You're on mute. You could be doing any damn thing, but you're listening to me. The human brain, again, always learn this. How does it work? You never talk to neurosurgeons. I have. Because I need to understand my audience, that what are they thinking, you know? I need to understand their mind, how do they process information, because as an orator, as a communicator, I need rapt attention. So he informs me, my neurosurgeon informs me that, look, a friend of mine, the human brain can process 450 words a minute. So this brain, how much data can it hold? You know, if I talk about hard drives, what is the size of your hard drive here? Note down, it's 8 terabytes. What is 8 terabytes? 8 terabytes is 8,000 GB. 8,000. Today you would have a laptop of 1 TB, 1 terabyte. That's 1,000 GB. 1,000 GB means you can hold about to, let's say, 500 movies, and you know them verbatim. 8,000 GB data means you can hold 8,000, about 4,000 movies back to back, scene to scene. Everything can be there, and you can retrieve it. We're not even using 1 GB of that 8,000 GB data. This brain has that power. You can cross-check on Google, you know, that what is the storage capacity of your brain. We don't use it. So as coming to communication, 450 words a minute, your brain can process. I'm speaking to you verbatim at 150 words a minute. Without any reading, without anything, or looking at anything, looking at pointers, I'm speaking 150 words a minute as non-stop speaker. And I'm also reading your chat box, what is coming in. So the human brain can process 3 information simultaneously. Jo brain hai, it can process 3 things at the same time. It can be, you can be listening to me. You can be thinking, yeah, when will this old man stop speaking? You could be also thinking, yeah, we've not prepared the food. I've not had a bath. There are 2 more sessions to attend. When will the day end? My husband has to come. My wife has to come. Kids have to be taught. There's a test in next week coming in. You're thinking, but you're listening to me. Any audience, because they have that potential to think 2 additional things in addition to what they're listening to, don't think that it is a distraction of the audience, that they're distracted. No. Most of us think that somebody is having a samosa in class or a coffee cup in class. Nothing wrong in that. And that's why I am what is called an outlier teacher or an outlier educationist. Outlier means that I look at things very, very differently. And I back it up with evidence. And evidence which is empirically verifiable. So what you need is, at the end of the day, any curriculum to identify what outcomes you'll achieve. So in these next 2 hours, you are being trained to train more and make them understand that when you look at behavior, when you look at those research papers, peer-reviewed research papers being published, what is happening? There's a whole lot of jargon there. There's a whole lot of, take up any concept and you will have 300 definitions of that concept. Any concept. In management, commerce, economics, definitional issues. How do you define something? And then you say, okay, this is how I define my concept. This is my research. This is my paper, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, it has to translate into a strategy. That's what organizations want. And that strategy has to be driven by behavior. Because strategy on its own is nothing. So jargon, we get enamored by jargon. We have that, JIT, just in time. In Japanese, they call it Kanban. You study historically. And when you study historically, you'll find that this was already there. It's something that we've taken now, given it a name and said, okay, fine, Toyota Motor Corporation did it, and they want inventory controls and they want to call it JIT. Fine, agreed. I'm not taking away what they provided to the theory, but people were already practicing it. Coming back. Let's look at another case. I have a mobile phone, right? I have a mobile phone, right? Let's go in the chat box. What is wrong with it? All of you have a mobile phone. Everybody would have a smartphone, right? So what's wrong with it? Galaxy M31 entered the waiting room. Please admit that person, Varda. Okay. So what's wrong with your mobile phone? Anybody? Anybody? What is wrong? Just put it on the chat box. It controls us, Drishti says. It's a distraction. Now, when I bring in a viewpoint, constant notification, I'll have a very different viewpoint to look at this mobile phone. Right? So what is it responsible for? It's a knowledge source, it's an information channel. Okay, let's look at this. Before I go into mobile phone, because you got to understand it. I buy 1 tola of gold. 1 tola of gold is 10 grams of gold. Right? Mobile brings in convenience. We can work faster. Fine. Piyush got that. So I buy 1 tola of gold. How much of cyanide and mercury sludge were you responsible for creating when you bought that 10 grams of gold? आपने 10 ग्राम सोना खरीदा. क्या आपको पता है कि उस सोने को निकालने के लिए how much of cyanide and mercury was bulldozed into Mother Earth to extract? It's called in technical terms, it's called a fractionalization process. You fracture the earth. How much went into it? Mercury and cyanide. They are the most dangerous elements. They'll destroy everything in their path. $24 tons. Go online and check. आपने 10 ग्राम सोना खरीदा ना, तो 10 ग्राम सोने के लिए हमने एनवायरमेंट में 24 टन 24 tons of mercury and cyanide were pushed into the Mother Earth to extract that 10 grams of gold. Right? We are the largest consumers of gold in the world. We are the largest importers of gold in the world because we are enamored with gold. But nobody tells you that there are 3,500 dams, not water dams. There are 3,500 dams that hold mercury and cyanide sludge of mines, M-I-N-E-S, gold mines, where you extract. Nobody tells you that. Nobody even talks about it in your geography book. I didn't know about it. Nobody trained me this way. And every 5 years, one of these dams across the world breaks. Breaks in the sense, the cyanide and mercury liquid starts moving out of the dam because it is so strong, nobody can hold it forever. And when that happens, it destroys everything in its path. Everything, forever. It becomes barren. That land, water becomes barren. That means totally impotent. Nothing will grow there, nothing will happen, it's gone. Who's driving? Now again, look at behavior driving decisions. Demand for gold, get gold, right? Business need, and make profits. A very simple example, simple that you see it. I don't wear gold, honestly. Never bought gold. Class 11, it was told to me. No, I was trained that way. Okay, trained to look at things in a very, very different manner. So what is your security? If you don't buy gold, then what is your security? Maybe we'll talk about it sometime later when you look at financial instruments. Mobile phone. This phone has an element in it called coltan. C-O-L-T-A-N. This is one of the most secretive markets of the world. You don't have data on this market. but it goes into every phone. Every phone has coltan in it. coltan. So where do you get that coltan? Again, we have to understand behavior driving strategy, right? We'll go to Apple, we'll go to Samsung, we'll go. So Alex Rajesh says it's available in Congo, DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. 42% production there of the world. Last data was that we were extracting about 8,000 tons of coltan from all over the world, and 42% was coming from DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, what is very important is that if it is such an important critical element in a mobile phone, and everybody has a mobile phone, then DRC should be very rich, just like Saudi Arabia. It's rich in oil, everybody needs oil, and fine. Now, why is coltan important? Coltan is important because you want 3G, after 3G you want 4G, after 4G you want 5G. You want speed. You want that I should be able to download my entire movie, my entire data, and it should be seamless. I should be moving from one picture to another picture. I should have multiple windows open. So data is being transferred and transmitted to your mobile phone at great speeds. And that speed is 3G, 4G, 5G, the speed at which data is being transferred. Now follow this point very carefully. I'll use an analogy of a Formula One car driving. When you drive a car very fast, 350 kilometers per hour, your tires, because there's a lot of friction with the road, your tires get heated up. And Formula One car drivers need to change their tires after a number of laps because the tires are gone. The friction has totally eroded them. So a lot of heat is generated. जब आप गाड़ी बहुत तेज चलाएंगे और स्पीड पे चलाएंगे तो टायर गर्म हो जाएंगे, रिट्रेड होने शुरू, वो उनका ट्रेड खराब होने लग जाएगा और हीट प्रोड्यूस होगी. Now apply this analogy to a mobile phone. You have a circuit. I'm not going to details because you got to study a company called TMNC, okay, a Taiwan-based company. I'll come to it later. But trying to understand corporate strategy, we'll go to Apple and we'll go to Samsung immediately after this. Now, when you have data going through that microcircuit at very high speeds, the chip is going to heat up. So the metal that you need when data is being transferred and it is generating friction, imagine current flowing through, an electric wire, and the more current you need, the wire is going to heat up and eventually a fire will start because heat is being generated. So similarly, sometimes your mobile phone catches a fire. Too much heat is generated. So you need your circuits that you design for a mobile phone to be made from a metal that doesn't get heated up. And that metal is coltan. So even when data is transferred through coltan at very high speeds, 3G, 4G, 5G, your mobile phone remains cool. So you need coltan. You need coltan in your laptop. You need coltan in your mobile phone. You need wherever you're looking at this data transfer taking place. So coltan is in huge demand. So what happens in Congo? 42% production there. In economics, it's called the paradox of plenty. Okay. What is a paradox of plenty? Your entire misfortune is because you have too much of it. So They're warring factions. There's the government and there's the rebel group in Congo, and Congo has always been in a civil war because everybody is fighting for these elements, such as coltan. Go online and check America. There's something called conflict minerals. Note it down, please. It's called conflict minerals. CONFLICT, conflict minerals. There are 4 conflict minerals according to the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. Gold is one of them. Coltan is another. So these rebel groups are fighting the government to have control of the coltan mines, because it is such a secret market that we don't know at what price coltan is sold. We can't even look at the supply chain of coltan. I could identify the supply chain moving from the Democratic Republic of Congo to Kenya to Kyrgyzstan, and from Kyrgyzstan to Shenzhen in China. That much I could reach out from my data collection. That how, looking at the suppliers and who's supplying to whom, and then tracing the origins of the product. You know, it's called reverse engineering, to look at the source of your input. So what happens is, coltan is required by companies like Apple, it's required by companies like Samsung, it is required by any manufacturer of laptops that are going to manufacture, you know, microchips, that are going to manufacture systems which will have data transfer. Now what is wrong with coltan? Nothing wrong, rebels fighting with the government, no. So what do the rebels do? The rebels are going to plunder a village and take men to work in those mines. You can go onto Google and type in coltan mines and you look at the condition of labor and children. You go into images and you'll find them. You can always cross-check that what I'm saying. They'll take them away. They'll work them as slaves in those mines. They'll be given bare subsistence. Women will be taken away for sexual exploitation. If a worker dies, the organs are traded. Everything happens. Everything happens. Your mobile phone, because of that coltan, is responsible for rapes, sexual exploitation, child labor, slavery, and you name it. So now let's go to Apple for a minute. And we look at Apple and we look at the sustainability report of the Apple, because Apple and Samsung are one of the largest sellers of mobile phones. And when you look at the sustainability report, study their annual reports, till about 5-6 years back, they were saying, and you search with the word coltan there, about 8 years back, they said only 18% of the coltan that we end up using in our mobile phone is ethically sourced. That means there is through fair trade, FAIR, through fair trade. In the last 7 years, they moved from 18% to about 28%. Still, 72% of the coltan is coming through illegal sources that are not fair trade. And the company acknowledges it. The company acknowledges it. It is in their annual statements. But why buy from Congo? You buy from Congo because Congo sells it to Kenya, Kenya transports it to Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan prepares the entire chipsets, goes to Shenzhen, where they're assembled as mobile phones. The company says we cannot track every aspect of how that coltan was extracted from the mines. This is not our job. Responsible companies do. A responsible company. You will say, okay, give me an example of a responsible company that does it. And note down the name and do this as a case study in class. The name of the entrepreneur is Bas von Abel, Basvonabel. And remember, I've not taught you a single word of theory. It's nearly 1.5 hours. Not a single word of theory I've taught you. Because you don't need it. You can pick the child, the student from 10th, 11th onwards, they become so good, they can read a textbook. They can know what is good and what is bad. What they need is to move them up the hierarchy of from information. You did not even have information. To make it more intelligent and then become knowledgeable. And for this, you need to work hard on every case. And once you share this case, the challenge is, I need to get one more. I need to get one more. So you develop yourself, your intellect develops. You grow as an individual. You don't run after money, money runs after you. People will come to you. You don't have to go out of people. Money, fame, respect. I'm repeating. Money, fame. Fame is different from respect. They are byproducts of excellence in each and every moment of truth. This was, whenever I'm doing my exercises, this is a moment of truth. And that's why I said, look, what I achieved in the past is zero. It doesn't matter. What I deliver now is what matters. If I'm delivering now, then fine, good. I did it. And I need to do it again and again and again. Every class, every session, every consulting. For that, I need to prepare. And prepare so well that there is no need for anybody to see me even. Lata Mangeshkar saying, "Meri awaaz hi, meri pehchan hai," or whoever sings for it. All you need is a voice. And Stephen Hawking did not even have a voice. He typed it and the machine called out. Sometimes you don't even need, you need a single finger to type in. Coming back. Samsung. So every time you buy this mobile phone, there's more demand for coltan. And you say, oh, Apple. Let me pose a question to you, talking about Apple. You're looking at corporate strategy, behavior. For so many years, study it on your own. I'm giving you questions to do it. How and why? Now, Apple launches their phone on a specific date every year. There's a specific date on which the Apple phones are launched. And every time they launch a phone, they launch 3 variants. What behavior drives launching of only 3 variants? And on that specific day. Why not 2 variants? Why not 4 variants? Why not 5 variants? And Apple is one of the most secretive companies today. Study it. I'll get back to you. whether on email or whatever. I'll give you my contact numbers. I'll give you how you can reach out to me. You're most welcome with your, queries and everything. I'll just write it down because you need that 5-minute break because I've been too much. Vardha, can you just give me control of sharing screen, please?
Yes, sir, definitely.
Yeah, they are exhausted. They're like, oh my God, he's going to speak. Give them a 2-minute break to kind of.
Definitely, sir. You are the co-host now, and I believe you can share the screen now.
Yeah, thank you. So this is how you contact me. Okay. So you contact me on 9899261747. Send me an SMS. Right? This is my mobile number. Yes. Amit.sachdeva @srcc.ac.in. Okay, this is my email ID. So you reach out to them. Okay. Right. Now, let's come back to that. The important part is that we should not, whenever you are training, never lose of what you want to deliver and what the topic is. So that subject matter delivery is also very important. In order to ensure that I explain to you how behavior drives strategy, let me take you to the first week of September of 1982. Okay, note down the dates so that you can always cross-check. First week of September 1982. We are in a place called Chicago. And I'm a company called Johnson & Johnson. And we have a problem. And the problem is that the media reports to me. The media tells me, I receive a phone call, that 5 people died because they took a Johnson & Johnson medicine called Tylenol, Tylenol. Tylenol is something like a pain reliever. Tylenol, Tylenol, a very established brand in America. Tylenol is a very established brand in America. And got a massive market share. So people, a girl as young as 12, 4 young people, 1 couple who had taken this painkiller, what you call as crocin or paracetamol, whatever you want to call it. You took it and died. And those tablets were laced with cyanide. Cyanide will obviously instantly kill you. You took it because you trusted the medicine. I'll give you another case. I'll take you to India. I'll start with Johnson & Johnson and I'll transfer you back. So we moved from DMRC, we moved to Samsung and Apple looking at their coltan. We're coming to another case where we're looking at again behaviors, driving strategy. And trying to showcase to you that we as individuals are the ones who make a difference, either the right way or the wrong way. Because organization culture inculcates that in us. Whether I'm going to be punctual in my class is dictated by the environment I'm going to be in. either I'm going to lead by institution and lead by example. And if everybody is coming in late, what we call as the Indian standard time, everybody will come in late. It'll be taken as a norm. Behavior drives what you're going to, what your outcomes are going to be across organizations. But how has that behavior been kind of either developed or modified or adapted is what is very important. And that is where the role of the leader comes in. So 5 people died in Chicago. And at that point of time, Tylenol had about 30% market share. And at that point of time, the chairman of the organization was a guy, note down his name because you study him. His name was James Burke, James, and Burke, Burke. Now, once it was established within 2-3 days that it was because of Tylenol had been laced with cyanide, but it had not been done at the factories, but during, when they were at the retail shelves, and somebody did it. Who did it? We don't know. The culprits were never caught till date. James Burke did something extraordinary. Not only withdrew Tylenol from the entire city of Chicago, he stopped production of Tylenol across the entire factories and did a brand recall of entire stock of Tylenol from entire American market. That means you withdraw not from the contaminated region where you were thinking it is in, but from across the country. Okay. And what was he driven by? The cost of withdrawing the brand was $100 million. $100 million would translate into, you can do the calculation. I'm talking about 1982. We're looking at 40 years back, 38 to be precise. Look at the value now with 30% plus market share. And not only that, he comes on television every day educating people on news media and telling them that don't buy Tylenol. If you have Tylenol, if you have an opened, bottle of Tylenol tablets, take it back, don't consume it, give it back to the retailer, take the refund, but don't consume it. Every life counts. Study a book by Catherine Eban. Note it down, guys. Catherine Eban. Catherine Eban is a New York Times journalist. She's into investigative journalism and studies the pharmaceutical sector. She published a book called The Bottle of Lies. The Bottle of Lies, Lies. It is a story of Ranbaxy. It is documented with 2,000 pages of notes. It's a 699 rupee book, but if you look at the end notes, 40 pages of end notes that run into, if you go to every end note and try to look at where the data is coming from, there were 20,000 pages. You know, why I'm taking you from Johnson & Johnson to Ranbaxy. Between 2003 and 2009, till the indictment of Ranbaxy in 2013 by the FDA. FDA is the body that regulates pharmacy in America. They imposed a fine, criminal fine on 7 counts on Ranbaxy of $500 million. And Ranbaxy pled guilty. You go onto the FDA site, type in Ranbaxy, and you'll have the judgments coming in. Ranbaxy pled guilty. For every drug that was to be exported or being produced in India, they were producers of generic medicines. You understand what generic medicines are. They were fabricating data, they were fudging data in order to manufacture their drugs to get their approvals. Suppose a drug goes off patent. You understand what an off patent drug is. That means the patent has expired. Now, if the patent expires, there are a lot of companies who want to start manufacturing it by reverse engineering it. In order to reverse engineer, you know the final product, that this is the crocine I want to produce. But then you need to find out what goes into it, and you cannot follow the same process which the innovative company had followed to develop the drug. Follow me very carefully. What you need to do is, you're going to manufacture a drug, let's say crocine or nimesulide. And you want to market it because there's huge demand for a painkiller. So you reverse engineer it. आप उसको तोड़ के देखोगे कि how is it made? And then you need to innovate with a new process of doing that, making that drug. You can't follow the original process of the innovator firm. So if you read law, you'll find it. Now, what was Ranbaxy doing? To get the drug approvals, they were saying that we tested this medicine on paper on 95 people. Actually, they tested on 2. The rest of the data was fudged, fabricated. Catherine Eban writes in the book, this was for the American market. This was true for the European market. 50% or more of the data was fudged, fabricated, not backed by any scientific study on the efficacy of the drug. In case of India, the book says, in case of India, 2003 to 2009, 100% of the data was fudged. 100%. Why? Because there was the need to speed to reach the market, what is called the first mover advantage. We were consuming. Now, understand, as of now, Ranbaxy is a part of Sun Pharmaceuticals. It moved from Malvinder and Shivinder Singh to Daiichi, and from Daiichi, it went on to the Sun Pharmaceutical. 2008, Malvinder and Shivinder sold the company to Daiichi, and they got 10,000 crores, 9,700 plus crores. Ranbaxy was an iconic MNC, but look at the FDA rulings against it. Read the book. They did not want to go through the entire R&D process. It would have taken them 4 to 5 years to really do the testing, collect the data, get authentic results, make changes, look at the side effects, and then give those results to the regulator. 4 years of doing this R&D work would have meant 4 years of lost sales. Brian Tempest was the CEO. And when this was brought out in the board meeting, that this data is fudged, it's fabricated, it's not genuine on patients. And the guy who did it, note down his name is Dinesh Thakur. Okay, study Dinesh Thakur. Dinesh Thakur fought a 10-year legal battle to get that $500 million fine. And he is quoted in the book saying that Brian Tempest said that this presentation that has been made, which showcases what is wrong with Ranbaxy, I'm talking about behavior of people, where data you're saying is fudged in case of 4 main areas where they were operating: Latin America, USA, Europe, and Southeast Asia, India. These were the 4 major regions where Ranbaxy was operating. So Brian Tempest says to the board and to the head of the R&D, who was at that point of time, Rajinder Kumar, delete this file, destroy the laptop, and destroy the server on the laptop, this to which it is connected. Leave no evidence that this is what we are doing. Behavior driving strategy. We want to be the first in the market. We want to get profits, whether the drug is effective or not. Yes, if somebody has a question.
Vishali ma'am, you have a doubt?
Somebody was asking the question. How did they get the approvals? I'll tell you how they got the approvals. The word is smuggling. You know, understand smuggling? It's called the briefcase drugs. These are called, note it down, these are called briefcase drugs. So what you did was, let's say you're manufacturing an antibiotic, right? Now, I don't want to go online and explain it to you because I'm on a public forum. Had it been a class in a one-to-one session, I would have said, okay, fine. I can speak on cases which are undocumented cases, and I'll not be taken to court for making that statement because it is for academic interest. There are a lot of cases which are not on Google, believe me. Google has only 5% of the information. Coming back. So employees were told that that antibiotic that we are making is a generic drug. Go and buy from the American market, the European market, the most, the innovator's drug, whatever they are manufacturing, get it. So they used to get the capsules from America manufactured by a different company, get them into India. The employees used to carry bags. That's why they were called the suitcase, the suitcase purchases of medicines, those capsules were emptied into those blister packs and they were given to the regulator saying that this is a medicine that we're manufacturing. Because they would be conducting their own trials. Who will conduct trials in India? Anybody? Tell me. Pharmaceuticals में जो आप दवाई खा रहे हो, you have 100 medicines lying around in the house. Who tests the efficacy of that medicine? अभी demonstrate कर देता हूं मैं आपको. Go on to the site, type in. Go on to Google, please. Everybody, do this. Nobody would have ever told you this. Not PCI, Alex. Write down an organization called CDSCO. Likho. Write down CDSCO. Type in CDSCO and type in banned drugs. करो अभी. Live करा रहा हूं. Live. और this is my USP. मैं live कराता हूं. कि ये कैसे हुआ? So I'll give a demonstrated example. So you went on to CDSCO, type in banned drugs. You got banned drugs there. एक PDF file आ जाएगी. You got a PDF, Ashish, download it. List आ जाएगी. Must be 400 plus drugs. ठीक है? You got a list of banned drugs, right? कौन सा item ले? Now, 444 Ashish says, okay. Aditi also says we got 444 drugs. Let's go to item number 97 in that list. I'll tell you item 97. Why? Because I was cross-checking it. आप लोगों को तो ये भी नहीं पता था कि ड्रग कहां पे बैन होगी और कौन सी साइट पे होगी. Believe me. ठीक है? Right? Item number 97. Pneumoslide. Okay, combination drug होगा. I don't know. It is pneumoslide with something. Diclofenac. वो है. Pneumoslide plus diclofenac. Okay, 97 Piyush. Now select that. Select. Okay, you got that. You got pneumoslide and diclofenac. Now it's a banned drug, right? Order है उसका. SL number दिया होगा. Now select pneumoslide and diclofenac combination and go to 1 mg. ये combination लेके देखो, is it available in India? Are these medicines being sold in this country? Hence proved. QED, quad Iraq dictum. पढ़ना पड़ेगा, मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी, बिना इसके नहीं आएगा ये सब कुछ. Believe me. Hours and hours and hours of hard work, of research. And it comes into those. Yes, pneumoslide is a painkiller. Osteoarthritis. Find out क्या हुआ, what happened. Pharma sector is, you know, we have about 4 crore brands in the world. 4 crore. I have studied about 12,000 of them. In my last 25 years, I've studied about 12,000 case studies, in the sense, in depth, everything about it. And I try to remember everything. I can give me a topic and I'll, you know, go on a case study and, you know, train you on that. Behavior. This is what I'm trying to showcase to you. Behavior. Driving strategy. So in the case of Ranbaxy, they were selling in 180 countries. And these drugs were not even tested. 100%. No testing done. No questions asked. And what does the government of India say? They got a very interesting answer. You got to again read what is the government saying and what is the DGSI saying, the Director General. He says this is a conspiracy. He says it's a conspiracy. Why? Because the big pharma wants to kill our competitive drug manufacturing firms. Okay. Aditi says that's the best excuse. Okay, fine, but that's it. But they have a stand. That's what it is. So I'm not saying that this is wrong and this is right. That both of them have a stand, saying that this is a conspiracy. Okay, if this was a conspiracy, then the government of India should have taken Catherine Evans to court and filed a defamation case and said, look, what you're doing is defaming this country. You should have taken FDA to court. And there in front of FDA, go onto the FDA site and look at the convictions of Rand Baxi and look at the documentation that is there, and your eyes open up. And this is not just true. So coming back to the Johnson & Johnson story, we have limited time left, and because I need to leave some time where I can tell you a little bit about myself, because I told you that you judge me after I've delivered. So it's 128 or 129. So I need 5-7 minutes about telling you about myself so that you know me. That why does he teach like this? In case of James Burke, he did a complete recall. And he says that I don't want even one life to be lost. Not even one life. 100 million, 150 million, bloody hell, whatever happens. There is, go on to Google again now, write down Johnson & Johnson Credo statement. Write down Johnson & Johnson Credo, C-R-E-D-O, Credo statement. Please let us know the YouTube recording link also for future reference. Sumon Bhattacharya. Okay, look at the Credo statement. Look at the most important stakeholder. There are 4 stakeholders there. Okay. And the answer is patients, not shareholders, not employees, not suppliers. And James Burke, his behavior of doing an entire recall, he won the Freedom Medal, one of the highest civilian honors in America. Because of his actions. At that point of time, he was not looking for that award. He was not looking for that fame. On the contrary, the board of directors would have hit back to him and said, damn it, you caused $100 million loss to us, to our shareholders. Who's going to counter it? Will you pay from a salary? Because at the end of the day, you're answerable to your shareholders, you're answerable to your board of directors. But he took that decision. It doesn't end there. He goes 2 steps forward and he says, we are going to introduce new norms in the packaging of pharma medicines. Now, if you study Johnson & Johnson, only 5% of their revenue comes from medicines, please. You know, your baby food from Johnson & Johnson, your soaps and shampoos and the medicines, etc. Only 5% of the revenue. 90% plus of the revenue comes from medical equipment, please. They're majorly into medical equipment. You've got to study these companies to understand how these companies operate. So coming back, he goes back to his R&D labs. He's sure that the tampering did not take place within the organization. In spite of that, he changes the packaging of the product and he introduces a new standard that FDA adopts. Now, the company does something and the regulator adopts it, something unheard of, and comes up with a 3-level of packaging. You know, a 3-level of packaging is, suppose you have a bottle, 3-level of safety. The first safety is on the top of the cap. You know, you have a aluminum foil on top and it is sealed. Then is the cork, you have the cap. That's the second level of seal, which has an opening there, which is, stitched on. And the third one is the plastic sealing that you see on a LPG cylinder. So So Johnson & Johnson, for the first time in the pharma industry, introduced, for the safety of the people, introduced this new form of packaging and then said that, look, we did our best to ensure your safety, right? Now, the important part is how is strategy being driven? 1 year after that, not only Johnson & Johnson regained its market share, it gained the trust of the people and its market share improved from 30%, which had fallen to 7%, to 43%. Within 1 year. Because the organization realized that the company is doing the best it can for our interest. And what was driving strategy? The credo. And that's very important. And that credo, again, is to be understood that who defined it. It doesn't come from anywhere. We as individuals sit down and define our value system. We define our attitude. So what drives us is extremely important. And that is true for any organization. You set your own benchmarks. Don't follow anybody's footsteps. Don't have role models. Create your own unique identity in this domain. And you can do it. But you'll have to work hard for it. 24 hours, how you use them is up to you. How you decide to use them. You'll have to sacrifice a lot. How are you going to train? How are you going to consult? How are you going to get people coming to you and asking for your time is up to you.